Hey everyone, it's Jack. So in the past 2 weeks, Arrietty was told to both sashay away and she was the winner of this week's challenge. I mentioned in my last video how there's been times since season 3 of Drag Race where they basically just choose a queen to come back to the competition. Sometimes they're eliminated and brought back, sometimes they're just stopped on the main stage, while other times there's a new twist that's involved. But out of all the times that queens have come back on the US seasons, I want to see how successful it's been for them. I'm talking specifically about queens who come back to the competition on the same season, so people like Vanjie or Cynthia Lee Fontaine won't be talked about here. And if you want to think about it, double Shantays in a way are queens like coming back to the competition or just like a twist on the eliminations in general. But I've done a full video on that already that you can go check out. Some of the eliminations that I'll talk about here, I did talk about in that video because they were like pseudo double Shantays. It'll make sense when I get to it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Only about half of you are, so I'd love to have you here. And the best place to start is with Carmen Carrera on season 3 of Drag Race. Season 3 was overloaded in a lot of ways for both the challenges that they did and the amount of episodes. We often talk about seasons 13 and 14 being overloaded because of the episode orders that they were given, but that problem first existed in season 3. While with season 13 and on, the episode order that was given was 16 episodes in a season, randomly season 3 also had that episode order, with probably like a fifth of the budget that these newer seasons have. An episode where they reunite can take up one of the slots, and the first episode of the season is actually a casting special. They were going around with an open casting call. It's honestly really interesting, and we see future queens like Detox and Katya appear in this. But even with these 2 episodes out, that's still 14 episodes of competition. So to fill the time, we got our first ever double Shantae, and the first time a queen was brought back to the competition after being eliminated. And funnily enough, Carmen was involved in both of these. The way it was framed for her to come back was that the judges had to come to a unanimous decision on who they wanted to bring back to the competition, and Carmen ended up being their pick. The implications being she had more to offer, she was super well liked, things like that, with another big implication being they just needed to pad out the amount of competition that they had left. I would be less confident in saying that point if it wasn't for the fact that Carmen was eliminated in the same episode that she was brought back in, which for these earlier seasons you'll see start to become a running theme. And she even lip-synced against Raja, who was one of the frontrunners of the season, so there was basically no way that she was going to stay over her, even if the lip sync that they gave was incredible. Also, side note, I completely forgot and my jaw dropped when I saw it, but this is the first time they talk about a Badunkadunk tank. Pretty funny coincidence for what we're talking about. So for about 6 months, I've been taking a medication that has a common side effect of hair shedding. While extremely common, hair loss is something that I've always worried about, and often I take preventative measures to make sure my hair stays thick and healthy. That's where today's sponsor, MD Hair, comes in. They're an amazing company that specializes in hair growth products that fit just your needs. Their treatment kit includes several different products with their own effect and different natural ingredients inside each product. There's a shampoo, a conditioner, a serum, and various supplements which all together help grow your hair inside and out. I've been using their products for about a month now, and I've seen a decrease in hair shedding, which was the big thing for me, as well as more volume in my hair than I had before. On their website, you can take a quiz and submit a photo to their scalp analysis technology. And those 2 features combined will create a hair kit customized with ingredients just for you. I've never thought about analyzing my scalp before, but with their technology, it's really easy to track the progress of your hair growth and how far you've come. If you're interested, they're offering an amazing discount of 70% off their first monthly kit with full-size products if you use my link and promo code. Customize your hair growth treatment with MD Hair. Use my promo code JackFed70 to get your first month of customized products 70% off. Thank you so much to MD Hair, and now let's get back to the video. For season 4, it was a couple less episodes, but the queen that came back still was eliminated in the same episode. This time being Kenya Michaels, again during the makeover challenge. Kenya made a much bigger jump than Carmen did the previous season. She was originally 5th out and then came back to form a top 5. It's pretty late in the season to bring someone back, basically like 2 episodes before the finale, so the logic behind this decision just doesn't really make sense. I do understand why Kenya, out of all of the queens, was brought back because it seemed like her time was slightly premature. They seemed to be very invested and just interested in who she was. She was just gorgeous on that season. And she lost a pretty close lip sync to Milan. So I think they just did want to see more, but just so close to the end when the other top 4 were so established, it was weird. I could see how she had more of a chance than Carmen to stay in this specific lip sync because Latrice had been in the bottom a couple times before this episode, but it ended up being a complete blowout lip sync by Latrice, giving one of the strongest performances ever, while Kenya just didn't really get the vibe of the song as much. The lip sync was a great end to a very confused episode with so many weird choices, not even mentioning how Chad got in an argument with one of the makeover contestants. Like, it was so weird. Season 5 switched things up by not having someone come back to the competition. Instead, they just went for a double Shantae after having a double sachet earlier in the season. I've talked a lot about the pacing of season 5 and how flawless it is, so I'm really glad that they decided to go this route, because especially with these earlier comeback queens, it just messes up the flow of the season to have someone who was eliminated come back and just get eliminated again. There's no real point for them to come back outside of just like one extra episode of screen time. But then we get to another switch up on season 6 where a queen doesn't come back, but a queen is instead told to sashay away, and then immediately after RuPaul is like, actually no, you can stay in the competition. There's a pretty fine line between a double Shantae and what I'm talking about here. In this scenario, I feel like we could call it like RuPaul's blessing. It's framed like RuPaul is the one making this decision and really wants to keep Dela around because she wants to see more. While a double Shantae can either be called because both of the queens gave an incredible performance, or there's the implication that production wants them to stay because they have more to offer, this RuPaul blessing is like an overt way of saying that their time is not done yet because they just want to see more of this queen. They should be eliminated because they lost the lip sync and it's framed like they did lose the lip sync, but by the power vested in Ru by Ru, they stay. These types of saves are where the competition gets dismantled a good bit, because in a lot of ways they're bending the rules of the competition just to save someone that they like. And don't get me wrong, I think Dela was killing the competition up to this point, and even though she never really met the same highs after this save, her staying around makes a lot of sense, and often people just forget that she was saved in this way at all. But you can't help but think what the queens in the back were thinking when they saved Dela this way. It's just not the best look for them to have so many of these rules set up. A queen is getting eliminated if they lost a lip sync, and just to switch it up on the queens in the competition, I think it's pretty sour depending on who is saved. So I think it's best to jump forward to Jackie Cox and Candy Muse, who were both saved in a very similar way. Once again, both of their saves were framed by RuPaul as them being eliminated, but then Ru is like stepping in and saying, I want to see more. Jackie's is the most inconsequential out of these RuPaul blessings. She made it like 2 more episodes, had some good performances, but didn't win a challenge and didn't eliminate anyone else. So she was able to show a good bit, and I do think that RuPaul did really like her, but this is another one that people just tend to forget about. One save that's way more memorable and sort of infamous is Candy Muse's save. Candy is a controversial figure in the Drag Race space. I tend to really like her. She's there to make good TV, she's there to stir the pot, and she was doing exactly that on season 13. So when she landed in the bottom next to Simone, who was the frontrunner of the competition, it was going to be a huge loss regardless of who went home. Both of their performances in the lip sync were great, and if they wanted to call a double Shantae, I feel like they could have done that. People might be upset by that, but it's not the most crazy double Shantae that they've done on the show. Instead, they call Simone the winner, and as Candy is walking out, RuPaul stops her and says, I'm not ready for you to go yet. The people that were upset for a couple of different reasons. Some people were not a fan of Candy, some people were just very toxic parts of the fandom, others were going insane because there were so many non-elimination episodes so early into season 13, and there was a smaller camp that were just critical because again, the competition just didn't really seem to matter as much. And if I were to be upset and critical, I would definitely fall into the last camp. Once again, Ru saves a queen that she just likes a lot, and the competition's rules just bend. And while I can be upset just on paper because I want the competition to be as pure as possible, a season without Candy Muse is just pretty boring TV. You can like her or not, but the way that she drives story and conflict makes the lives of the production team a lot easier, honestly. It's really interesting to me because no one ever talks about Dela's save, but I still see a lot of people complaining about Candy's. And the thing is, they're extremely similar when it comes down to it. It's a pair of queens who production clearly very much likes, but they were easily the worst of the week. So they land in the bottom, one queen bests the other in a lip sync, and instead of saying sashay away, they do a RuPaul blessing. At the end of the day, I see it as a necessary evil if they really want to keep players in the competition that they know will make good TV. It's not the most fair, but like I said in a couple videos ago, I don't really come to Drag Race for super fair. I just think these types of saves are showing production's hand way too much. So in a way to conceal their hand, they start to employ these other twists, which we'll get back to in a second. First, I want to talk about season 8's comeback queen. Naysha Lopez is the last queen to come back to the competition by just walking into the workroom and saying, okay, you're competing again. We'll get to season 7 and the All-Stars queens in a second, but Naysha's comeback is way more in line with season 3 and 4. Naysha was brought back to the competition on a whim because the cast was down in numbers after a double sachet. She was originally the pork chop, but they saw an opportunity, especially after she was pretty established after episode 1. She came back, lasted 2 episodes, which was way longer than most of the other comeback queens, and then was eliminated once again. This is up there with one of my favorite returning queens, only because it's super organic how everything happened. You can't really predict a double sachet happening, so when the opportunity knocked, I feel like they answered, and they answered pretty well. Still though, she didn't do great in the competition, and ultimately her coming back wasn't the most consequential.
This is harder on me than it is for you guys. No, it's not!
Trixie Mattel is one of the last queens to come back to the competition, but she did it in a way that's way more similar to an All-Stars way of coming back. On All-Stars, basically any time that someone is brought back to the competition, it's through some sort of challenge. And if a queen were to come back to the competition, I think this is the best way to do it, and what they did on season 7 was the best of the best. A challenge where any of the queens can come back to the competition at the halfway point of the season. It's the perfect time to do it makes a competition like this the most fair, and this makeover was just a campy fun time, and probably up there with my favorite makeovers that they've ever done on Drag Race. Trixie came back, and while she didn't make the biggest impact, only lasting 2 episodes, her performances in those episodes were definitely enough to warrant her coming back. When I think comeback queen, I think of Trixie Mattel more than anyone else. She went out pretty early, and it was a pretty big gag at that point, so her coming back and kind of capping off what she wanted to prove was just perfect storytelling. The queens that have come back that have made the most impact on the show are all in All-Stars. Tatiana, Alyssa, Latrice, and Eureka all won challenges on their season and eliminated someone who was in the competition after they were eliminated. The only person to not do that was Morgan, but she was brought back at like probably the worst time, so there wasn't really a lot of room for her to do anything in the competition. Even with most of these queens coming back and winning a challenge, it's still very clear that they're on borrowed time. You can kind of say that for the regular seasons as well with the queens coming back, but especially in All-Stars where they're eliminating each other, it's just always the easy pick to eliminate the queen who was already eliminated once. We definitely saw that the most with Morgan, and especially Latrice, whose exit was just like very lackluster the second time around. It's no fault to her, but I think she just saw the writing on the wall and was like, damn, there's really nothing that I could do. And even if the All-Stars format isn't the nicest for queens who come back, and I really don't ever see them crowning a queen who was eliminated at one point on the season, All-Stars will always inherently be about redemption, and coming back to a competition is like a big form of redemption. So I'm definitely cool with having it in these All-Star seasons, just not at the very end like with All-Stars 3 or 6. The queen who came back is either about to get eliminated once again, or if they win the final challenge, it just kind of screws someone out of the top. All in all, it's definitely a welcome twist on All-Stars. I just mentioned how I don't think they would ever crown a queen on All-Stars who was eliminated, but I think there's one instance on a regular season where a queen was eliminated from the competition but then came back from a twist, and I think she had a really good shot at the crown. We finally made it to the last category of being saved and coming back, and it's just the random gimmick twists, like the golden chocolate bar and the Badunkadunk take. Bosco on season 14 was the queen to receive the golden chocolate bar, and I definitely thought that she had a chance at the crown. This chocolate bar was like the central theme to all of season 14. It took up a lot of screen time, it made the eliminations feel kind of lackluster, and it was definitely ruined by the time we got to it, but still there was an interest in who was gonna get it. So when Bosco opens it up after losing the lip sync to Georges, and then immediately following this episode by winning the roast, after building up a good amount of momentum the entire season, there was a non-zero chance that she was gonna get the crown at the end because she had a good amount of wins and she was the focus of the central twist. It's really interesting how the golden chocolate bar kind of reframes this whole idea of a queen being eliminated, because 2 other queens on this season quote unquote came back to the competition after fully being told to sashay away. I'm talking about Orion Story and Diabetti. Diabetti also made it to the finale and had one of the best performances, but for some reason it was just harder for her to shake this whole image of her getting eliminated, even though her and Bosco were functionally in the same camp. So the thought of Dia winning at the end, though there was like a vocal fan base who was really in support of it, it just wasn't as feasible of an idea as the rest of the top 5. This twist and the Badunkadunk tank masked the whole idea of lack of fairness on Drag Race when it comes to saving someone in the competition. You can go behind the scenes and call it rigged, or they're like choosing it, which they most likely are, or you can take it at face value and just assume that a queen was given a miracle. Either way, I think it's a fun alternative to just a RuPaul blessing or a queen walking back into the workroom. So finally, we come back to the Badunkadunk tank and Arrietty and Hormona. It's pretty clear that they wanted a very clean cut off with this whole storyline. It was around for like 3 or 4 episodes, and with Arrietty getting this win and Hormona going home in the same episode, I think the chapter is definitely closed. I don't know how it's gonna bode for Arrietty getting a win this soon after being saved by the tank, because with the chocolate bar and Bosco, it happened so late in the season that she could kind of use it as a stepping stool to make it to the finale. But here, it's still early on in the competition, and we already have a natural conclusion to Arrietty's storyline. So I'm interested to see where her storyline goes from here, because maybe this ends up just being being like a footnote in it. I don't know how exactly real the tank was, but it seems pretty legit for the most part. Of course, there's people online saying that they influenced Arrietty and Hormona to pick those numbers, but just like from a production standpoint, what if Joella or Lucky picked those numbers too? There's a lot of little logistical things that point it more in the direction that it's legit, but you know, I still don't know with Drag Race ever. This is one of those twists that I really do like taking at face value, and I don't really want to look into it too much because I'm just enjoying the season so much. It's just really cute that the two numbers were 17, and I don't think it overstayed its welcome as a twist. There's still a lot of season left, but with Arrietty building momentum after this win, I'm excited to see where she goes as a comeback queen. We've come a long way from the guest judges just deciding to bring a queen back only to be eliminated in the same episode, and I'm honestly excited to see where this goes in the future. Maybe we'll get an eliminated queen to come back and win the whole show. You never know. It's only happened once on like Big Brother and Survivor, and both of those winners are like controversial, so I don't know how the Drag Race fandom would handle that. But at the end of the day, it's just nice to root for a comeback queen, again, even if they are on borrowed time. So many queens leave the competition with the fire still burning, so when they get a chance to go back, it makes it cool that they could get a little more closure than the average queen. That's about all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all are the best, and I will see you soon with another video.
No, it's not.